Yeah. Let's go. We just gotta go hard. I go the hardest. I bring the pain. Not what you used to. It's all part of the game. Yeah, I just gotta go hard. I just gotta go hard. Go hard. Go hard. Yeah. Oh yeah, the beast back. Adrenaline pumping through my veins. Can't relax. Original. I am not the same.
And welcome to this Thursday betting preview edition of Pucks Across Borders on Total Apex Sports and on my Twitter, Solder on Pucks, Sports Addict Live on YouTube. It is good to be back, Andre. It has been a minute. It says, if you're watching this on Twitter, it says Wednesday betting preview. I changed it to Thursday. I don't know. I can't help you. If somebody wants to work for me for free and do all this tech stuff for me, that would be great because I have no idea why it's doing that. But whatever. Here we are. It is Thursday, right? I'm not losing my mind. It's Thursday. We have 9 games to talk about tonight. Lots of stuff happened in the NHL since we've been away. We're going to get to what we can. As always, like I said, on Total Apex Sports, brought to you by First Round Collectibles. Right now with our promo code Sports Addict, get 10% off whatever sports card you want in the entire First Round Collectibles store. They have an ongoing sale up to 50% off tons and tons of cards. And with our promo code Sports Addict, not only do you get 10% off of regular priced items, but sales items as well. Go to firstroundcollectibles.com today. That's the number 1, STRoundcollectibles.com. Promo code Sports Addict for 10% off your order. Firstroundcollectibles.com. First Round Collectibles, sports cards for sports fans. Shout out a couple people last week bought cards on firstroundcollectibles.com with our promo code. So shout out to you guys. We appreciate you. My buddy Chris appreciates you. Yeah, here we are. Andre, before we get to the 9 games, before we get on to the chaos that is the NHL, how you doing on a Thursday, bro? It's good to see you.
It's good to see you. Busy time of the year. Most wonderful time of the year, allegedly. I want to give a shout out to the countdown, though. It's my shout out of the day. My mic fell as soon as you didn't go live. It was awful. It would have sounded terrible. But the countdown was on. I was muted. Nobody heard it. You only get to hear the story now. You don't get to experience the crash. So shout out to you and the countdown.
Yeah, I like that it does that because I always forget to mute myself, and I am a notoriously loud breather, so I feel like a lot of times when it just so it's good. It is good to be back. All right, man, let's get to it. Last night in the NHL, and of course there's been many nights in the NHL since we've last been on, but we'll quickly go over last night. The Flyers lose to the Red Wings in a crazy game, 6-4. Maple Leafs beat the Stars 5-3. Panthers beat the Wild 6-1. When the Maple Leaf and Stars game was over, I went over to Florida Wild. It was 1-1. And before you know it, Florida blew that game wide open. Canucks up 2-0, lose to the Utah Hockey Club 3-2 in overtime. The Jets up 2-1 in the third period. The Ducks scored 2 goals in the last 5 minutes, beat the Jets 3-2. More importantly, Lucas Dostal gets me the win in fantasy. So big night for your boy. And that was it that happened in the NHL last night. Before we get into what we take away from, it can be last night, it can be from since we were here last on Thursday, it can be whatever you want, Andre. We're going to get to you in a second. I do want to let everybody know that I have taken on a job with the Hockey Writers, thehockeywriters.com, at the Hockey Writer on Twitter. Not too sure where the S went, but that's it. The Hockey Writer on Twitter. I am covering the Dallas Stars for the Hockey Writers now, and I am super excited. We will still be streaming here at Total Apex, and you'll still see some hockey content from yours truly at totalapexsports.com from time to time. But I'm super excited to be covering the Dallas Stars for the Hockey Writers. So shout out to them and thank them for having me on board. Go check out their work. If you're a hockey junkie, they're called the Hockey Writers. So you can put two and two together of what they cover over there. That's it. They cover hockey and they do a great job. They'll be doing lots of stuff for the Four Nations coming up, for the World Juniors coming up. We're going to do a World Junior show in the next couple of days as well. So shout out to them. I know that we are affiliated with Total Apex Sports, so I don't want to pump another website too much, but I'm super excited to be on board with them. All right. Andre, lots to talk about. I'm going to ask you about the Rangers again. We joked about this pre-show. Every time we disappear, we come back and the Rangers are up to some nonsense. So I'm going to ask you about them later. Don't worry. But I have everything going on in the NHL in the week that we've been away. What has caught your eye in the NHL this past week?
Well, first of all, congratulations. No, really nice gig. You're great at your job. You're wonderful. You're going to kill it. And I know how much you love Dallas, specifically Dallas teams that have stars in their logo. So you're going to do
match made in heaven.
Second of all, the Anaheim Ducks last night. Not really what I wanted to talk about, but when the line closed on that game, hosting the Jets, they were plus 130, kind of respectful, and they cashed. So shout out to you, Anaheim. You're making strides. You're going the right place. You won't have to follow the mama anymore. My takeaway, though, I know on this show we've set the precedent and we try to follow it pretty strictly. We don't give too much airtime to bad teams, undeserving teams, underachieving teams, whatever. We try to avoid the Blackhawks, try to avoid the Predators, try to avoid the Rangers. We try to avoid the Sharks, teams like that. We don't talk about those teams. They don't deserve the airtime. But the Buffalo Sabres have now lost. They were 11-9-1 when they returned home the day before American Thanksgiving. Pretty good start by their standards. 11-9-1.
Yeah.
2 games at home, 1 quick trip in the same state, 5 more games at home. Really good schedule, you would think, at least for travel. They've lost 11 in a row.
Mm-hmm.
Again, you can do the math. 7 of those, apparently I can't do math, were at home. They lost to the Islanders 3-0. It's a bad team to be losing to. They lost to the Rangers 3-2. The Rangers can't beat anybody. The Red Wings were struggling, pulled a 6-5 win in Buffalo. Tuesday, it was the Montreal Canadiens, 6-1. The NHL record, 17 losses in a row. Buffalo's being outscored, and this is like on the fly math. I hope this is right, but I believe it's 45-22 in these 11 games. What's going on? The sky's falling. This is a team that for the millionth year in a row said, we're going to take the stride. We're going to get over the hump. We're going to make the playoffs. And instead, they're cratering. They're not rapidly approaching. They passed the Montreal Canadiens in the standings. They are last in the Eastern Conference. 1, what the hell? 2, I don't even remember what 2 was because I'm just so in shock of. Oh yeah, 2. Are they going to break the record? Are they going to match the record? 17 is the record, if my math is correct, if I remember correctly. Are they going to get there?
Are you asking me?
I am asking you.
Well, they play the Leafs on Friday, and as good as the Leafs have been playing, I've said this multiple times. That feels like a Buffalo win. Just being a jaded Leafs fan, dude, they're a mess right now, bro. Like, it's awful. And they're in a really weird position right now. Weird is actually putting it nicely. Like, I just want to make sure. Let me just check this. Because Rasmus Dahlin's been in the league for quite a while now. Power's been in the league for a few years. You've had these guys on your team for a while. Let me just check. In the last, because they haven't made it to the playoffs, 13 years, right? Since they made it to the playoffs. This would be or is it 14 now?
It was the 2010-2011 season.
Okay.
So it would have been in 2025. It would have been 14 years.
Okay. So let me just fact check this. They have, since they last made it to the playoffs, they have had 1,000 coaches. Yeah, that's right. They've had 1,000 coaches. They fired how many coaches? They've done the GM dance. They've done the coach dance. They have good players on that team, man. Like, I understand roster construction, and I understand that just because you have good players doesn't mean your team is going to be good. I understand that 100%. But I just, what do you do, Andre? Like, you can't fire Lindy Ruff. You can't, can you? I know this is the NHL, but you literally just hired him. I think Ken Adams, I might get that name wrong. I'm pretty sure Ken Adams,
the GM,
is the GM. Yeah. He, like, you signed all of these guys to long-term big money contracts. And as good of players as they all are, they haven't won anything. They haven't they haven't just not won anything. They haven't even made it to the playoffs. And you gave all these guys big tickets. Like, what do you do, man? I think they're stuck. You can't fire anybody. You can't trade anybody. There's nothing you can do. This is it. And I just, year after year after year, we talk about Ottawa, Detroit, Buffalo. Which one of those three teams will make it? And it just, Detroit, Ottawa, I still think Detroit is underperforming. I think Ottawa is about right where they're supposed to be right now. But Buffalo just continues to crater, man. Will they get to 17 games? Why wouldn't they? With how bad this team has been, man. I just don't understand. And, like, at home too, bro, like, I think I actually said this on the program last week, I think, talking about thank God for Josh Allen, because if it wasn't for him, this would be a much bigger story. Well, their ineptness is now bigger than Josh Allen. And not in the sense that it's bigger than Josh Allen. Obviously, what he's doing in the NFL right now is a bigger story. But nothing can save you now. Like, Buffalo Sabres fans are furious. No one's going to the game. Also, this is going to sound stupid, and it kind of is stupid, but that Buffalo Sabres arena, the first thing that I would do in the offseason, if I was the owner, the first thing I would do, Mr. Pagula, if you're listening, tear off the blue cushioning off those seats and put, like, black or something. Because those seats, when they're empty, it's the most noticeable thing in the NHL. Like, you just watch a game and you just see bright blue seats all over the place. Like, it's a disaster, man. I don't know. There's no answer. Like, you can tank, but you can't tank properly. Like, you can't trade any of your, like, pieces for the future because you signed all these young, like, guys, like, to big money. Like, and what's worse, I know this is your takeaway and I've kind of hijacked it, but what's worse, your golden child.
Yeah.
Jack Eichel. He wanted a surgery. You wouldn't give it to him. He left. He has a Stanley Cup ring. Your other golden child, Sam Reinhart. He's gone. He has a Stanley Cup ring. Brutal. There might be other Stanley Cup winners from there that I'm like forgetting. But those two guys, not only have they won Stanley Cups, but Sam Reinhart might win the Rocket or at least be close. And Jack Eichel is on pace to win the MVP. Not to win it, but to be in the conversation. Just awful. Awful, awful, awful.
Yeah. I mean, you can look at this. You look at this short term since this streak started. Only team in the league without at least 5 points. That includes, the teams that we bash on constantly. The 31st in scoring, allowing the most goals per game. 31st on the power play. I think they're 26th in shots allowed. 22nd in face-off win percentage. There's just nothing good going on if you're talking about short term. Talk about long term. I mean, you just hit the nail on the head. They haven't made the playoffs for, I'm assuming they're not going to make this year, 14 straight years now.
Yeah.
You're running your stars out of town because of incompetence. You haven't proven that you can turn one of these stars into at least a playoff appearance, let alone sustain success. Where do the Sabres go? Is there an answer for now? Probably not. Is there an answer for the future? If I was in Buffalo, I wouldn't think so. I would just wear my Bills gear 24/7, just jump through flaming tables every day because I'm not wasting my time on the Sabres. They spent what? How old's my sister? My sister was born in 2011 after their last playoff appearance. She's about to graduate middle school. She's a teenager. The Sabres haven't made the playoffs since. Come on. It's a whole lifetime. You're traumatizing entire generations of Buffalo citizens.
Dude. And there's a time where like the Buffalo Sabres, I know when I was growing up in the 90s, especially late 90s, early 2000s, like they were a force to be reckoned with every year. Like I it's awful, man. It's awful. And I will say they should be writing a Christmas card to NHL.com because if you go on their standings, I'm looking at it right now, and if you just ignore everything, you see the last 10, they're 0-7-3 in the last 10. But if you and they're, oh no, it's an 11-game losing streak. If you only look at the streak, right, the streak column at the end there, it says that they've lost 4 in a row. And that's because NHL.com doesn't count overtime losses. So
OT1.
Shout out to NHL.com. You're doing the Sabres right this holiday season. Just shout out to the chat real quick. Our guy Brady, I'm glad you're joining us, man. I don't know if it's Christmas vacation, if you're off school, or what the deal is, but I'm happy you're joining us, bro. He was lively in the chat. I'm joining our guy Gabe, Joe, and Jordan on Sports Pulse. I'm joining them on Tuesday nights now, and
Yes.
he was lively in the chat over there, and I always appreciate me some Brady. Brady, I think we're friends now. I think we can josh each other, right? We can push each other around a little bit. This guy, Vancouver Canucks fan, chirps the Leafs all the time. And the Canucks have never won a Stanley Cup. And he's coming at me for like last on the chat a couple nights ago, coming at me for the Leafs are this. They haven't won a cup in 50 years. Well, yeah, but we have 13. It's just been a while. But all joking aside, good to see you in the chat, Brady. Appreciate you watching, bro. Yeah, the Sabres are a disaster. And in that same vein, and we have 9 games to get to, so we can't talk about everything, but like, because the Western Conference is really intriguing right now. There's lots going on. I know that I talk about this a lot, and I don't know how many people actually care about this, but I hate on this team a lot. Yeah, 2011, still more recent than we have. What can I say? I can't argue with that, Brady. Where was I going? Frick, Brady. That threw me off. Oh, I rag on this team all the time. I give them a hard time all the time. And so it only is fair and right that I give them praise when they deserve it. And that is the Ottawa Senators, man. 4 wins in a row, 7-2-1 in their last 10 games. They are now in a playoff spot. They are 8th in the East, second wildcard spot, 1 point up on Pittsburgh, 2 points up on Philly, and 3 points up on the Rangers and Islanders. Will they hold this spot? I don't know. Will they stay? Will they get to the playoffs? I don't know. This is another conversation. I do think Boston fades away. I don't like what I'm seeing from them still. I know they've been better since the coaching change, but I still don't really buy it. So I think there's a spot there. I think that those 2 wildcard spots, I think Tampa probably creeps up into the top 3 of the Atlantic. So I do think that those 2 wildcard spots are up for grabs. I know we're going to talk about this later. I still refuse to believe that the Rangers are going to be this way all year. I still believe the Rangers are going to figure it out. And I don't. They're 10 points back of the 3rd wild card. Are they going to get all the way up into the top 3 of the Met? That seems kind of hard to kind of envision now, but I do think that the Rangers are going to figure it out. So between Boston, because I do think Tampa will get to the top 3 in the Atlantic, between Boston, Ottawa, I think Pittsburgh's coming around too, man. I don't know if they're going to play better than this, but I feel like their dark days are behind them. Rangers, the Islanders, I don't think they're going to make it to the playoffs, but we know what the Islanders are going to do. They're just going to loser point you to death and find a way to lose like 20 overtime games and just be in the mix. Detroit, they're going to be in the mix. I think Columbus is going to be in the mix, man. Maybe not quite at that. And Montreal, again, I'm not saying they're going to make the playoffs, but dude, Patrick Laine has rejuvenated this team, man, and the fan base. Like the Canadian, the Bell Center loves this guy right now, and rightfully so. So I think that race for those last 2 wildcard spots, bro, it's gonna be insane. But shout out to Ottawa Senators. They find a way to beat Ottawa. And they've played really well in the last dozen games or so. Linus Allmark, after a subpar start to the season, he's really come around. His numbers are terrific. And to bring it all the way around to your point about the Buffalo Sabres, if I'm Buffalo, I'm just thinking like we missed our opportunity, which might seem obvious, but if you look at it, Pittsburgh, awful at the beginning of the year. Detroit, awful. Columbus, just okay. Montreal, awful. Like most of the teams that are chasing those 2 wildcard spots had a really, really rough start to the year. And you're right there with them. You happen to be one of them. You know, I feel like they could have made life a little bit easier for themselves, but anyway, I digress. And there's lots more to get into. The Western Conference, super fascinating. Anything else that you want to touch on before we get to the 9 games?
Brady asked when we think Buffalo will make the playoffs next. I think it's worth, throwing some guesses out there.
Sure.
Compared to the crystal ball. I'll say 2027. I'll be nice. I'm going to say 2027. It has to end eventually.
Or will they have to move the Sabres? I don't think they're going anywhere.
The Quebec Nordics are going to make the playoffs in 2027.
Oh, that's right. The Quebec Sabres. Yeah, this is a great question. What do you think? 27, you said?
That's me trying to be nice. Realistically, the first thing that popped in my head was like 2033. But I don't even know who's going to be alive by then. Those kids, in geography right now. So what do I know?
Dude, I never. They're never making it back. This is the thing, and it goes back to the conversation that we just had, Andre, like, and Brady, since he's like the one chiming in here. Like, like, what do you do? Like, you have to, like, do you have to reconstruct this entire roster? Like, what do you do? Like, all these players know is losing, man. Like Tage Thompson, Peterka, like Darlene, Power, like Levi, Uka Puka. Like all these guys, all they know is losing, dude. Like I just don't understand. Like you change the coach. They've had like 3 or 4 coaches in the last 5 seasons. That might be an exaggeration. I don't think it is, but at least 3.
It's the NHL. You never know.
For sure. But like, you know what I mean? Like, I just don't know what they do. Like, and you know, I know Brady is going to give me some snarky comment here in the chat, but I'm being dead serious when I say this. With the Maple Leafs, this conversation of what do you do with the core four? Do you blow up the core four? Do you all this stuff? And I'm being real here. Like I said, I know Brady's going to say something snarky, but I'm being serious. The difference between, and I was all for, hey, if you can find a way to move Mitch Marner and to do this and do that or whatever and make your team better, hey, by all means. The difference is, yeah, the Leafs like lose in the playoffs every year, first round. I get it, but they make it to the playoffs every year. So why you don't have to move any of those big ticket guys, because guess what? You make it to the playoffs every year. You make billions of dollars every year. You're successful in the regular season. You're always playing games that matter. As a business, you don't really have to do anything if you don't want to. Sure, it would be nice to win a Stanley Cup, and that would make a lot of money too. But you're not losing money if you're the Toronto Maple Leafs, right? If you're Rogers and Bell and all those guys who own the Leafs. When it comes to the Sabres, like, not only do you have all these guys signed long-term and they're making a large amount of money, none of them have seen the playoffs in their life. Not one of them have played a playoff. Obviously, they have players like Bo Byram won the Stanley Cup. Like, I get that. But I'm just saying, man, like, I don't know. 2027 seems generous, seems nice, and maybe you're right. But we've been saying this about Buffalo for the last, like, 3 years. Like, every year is supposed to be the year that they, like, take the jump. They have the talent. It's not like they're, like, no disrespect, but it's not like they're, San Jose, who is expected to be competitive, expected to be a good team, but we know what they are, right? Buffalo's supposed to make the playoffs. They just are, and they're not. So I would love 2027, but I'm just really curious to what they do.
There's always light at the end of the sports tunnel, especially if you have the patience to dig for it, but Buffalo hasn't proven that they're ever going to get there. They're not digging forward. It feels like they're digging down and left and right and in a circle everywhere but forward. So,
yeah. It's funny because, like, Lindy Ruff, he's only 64 years old, but looking at him on the bench, I swear he's 70. He's just like, what? Why am I here? I'm 64 years old. Why am I dealing with this nonsense?
Toxic environments, they stress you out they age you very quickly. Shouldn't say stress you out.
Just crazy, man. I don't know. I want them to be good. I think, like, and I know that you're saying, oh, well, they have to move the Sabres, and we're kind of joking around here, but, like, the Buffalo Sabres have been in the NHL for a long time. They're an historic franchise, and I like it when they're competitive. but they're just not right now. And it'll be interesting to see moving forward. All right, one last topic I want to get to. We do have 9 games in the NHL, and we're going to get to all of them. But before we do, Capo Cackle. Wow, I'm butchering it. Capo Cackle traded to the Seattle Kraken from the New York Rangers for Will Borgen or Borgen? I'm getting that wrong. Do you know?
I think it's Borgen, but I don't know, honestly. I should.
Defenseman Will Borgen and a 3rd and 6th round pick in the 2025 draft. Andre, our resident Rangers fan, what do you got here, bro? I'll just share it like super quickly. You need a defenseman. He's a good defenseman. He's not this crazy talented shutdown guy, but he's a good defenseman. You need like better defensive play. We all know that. 2nd overall pick. Was he 2nd overall or 2nd round?
Cabo Caco?
Yeah.
2nd overall.
Like, that's disappointing, right? To trade your 2nd overall pick for an okay defenseman and 2 late round draft picks. That's tough.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like Capo Caco has kind of been misused, mismanaged, mistreated a lot of his time with us. You can look at the numbers and see he hasn't delivered as a number 2 overall pick. I don't think anyone's going to argue that. But he's a fine player. And honestly, I think the only reason he's getting traded, I think it's a pretty open secret, is because he spoke out about being benched unnecessarily.
Good for him.
He called out the organization. He said, I shouldn't be being benched. I'm not the worst guy. You need that type of competitive fire. And he's absolutely right. So, it sucks to see him go. I liked him personally. He's a fine player. I wouldn't say if you redraft, I won't think you'd take him number 2 overall. But this is clearly this is more of an ego move than make the team better move, in my opinion. And I think the return speaks on that too. I don't know. A lot of what the Rangers are going through right now reminds me a lot of the 2000s Knicks, and there's one common denominator there. It reeks of Dolanism.
My guy.
Yeah. So if you're good for Kako for getting out. He did what he had to do. He got out. There's the cracks are starting to show. What's really happened with this organization, why the Rangers are crumbling. People are unhappy. It's because of how employees are being treated, basically, throughout the organization. Obviously starts at the top. And, just if you want to get out the guys who can. It's going to be rough from here on out in New York.
Yeah, this is interesting to me. First of all, Capo Caco to the Kraken is
awesome.
Tricky. Like, that's a hard sentence, man. I saw somebody shout out, I doubt he watches this show, but shout out to Chris Horvat, former producer at TSN Radio. Love listening to him in the afternoons. He sent out a tweet yesterday saying, how about Capo Kraco? And I was like, that's legit. I love that. Capo Kraco. Capo Kraken. Yeah, we're hearing rumblings and rumors of a disjointed locker room, and there's a fracture in the locker room, and I don't know how true or not true stuff like that is. I think Chris Drury really misplayed his hand here, dude. Coming out and being verbal about Trouba and Kreider, and then Trouba, in the midst of all the chaos of last Friday, he was verbal about, right? He's like, okay, you're going to talk about me? Here we go. He talks about it. And I think Capo Kraco, dude, I think this is Capo Caco. What did I say? Crackle?
He said-
Capo Caco. I think he is well within his rights to say what he said.
Yeah.
He did not deserve to be benched. He did not. And I think he's been a scapegoat no matter who the coach is. And I got all the respect in the world for Laviolette. I think he's a great coach. Won the President's Trophy last year, man. And it would be the most NHL thing ever for him to get fired this year. I don't think he's the problem. And when it comes to the NHL, baseball is a lot like this as well. I'm not always convinced that it's the coach's decision on who gets benched. You know, I think in game, that's different. If it's in the game, he's having an awful 30 minutes and you bench him for the third period, that's a coach's decision. But as far as a guy like eating popcorn up in the press box, then that's I'm not always convinced that that's the coach's call. And I would be really curious to know. Of course, they're going to say it is, but I'd be curious to know for real whether it is or it isn't. The other issue here is maybe you've been to Madison Square Garden. It's on my bucket list. I walked by it a few times, never been in. Maybe you can answer this. How's the popcorn there? Because maybe if the popcorn was better, maybe he'd stay. But maybe he's like, you know what? You're benching me. Not only are you benching me, but this popcorn's garbage. Why am I going to put up with this? I'll go to Seattle and eat real popcorn, like a real Western American.
I heard the Seattle's popcorn is actually phenomenal.
Have you actually heard that?
Yeah.
That's hilarious. I love that. That's so funny. So yeah, dude, I don't know. I think he misplayed his hand, man. Because Kreider and Trouba, like, I understand wanting to get out from Trouba. I get it. I don't disagree with it. But those two guys are staples in your locker room, man. Like, what are you doing talking about those guys in the media?
Yeah. And Kreider, I mean, Trouba didn't want to leave either. Kreider does not want to leave. And Kreider, I mean, short of the fact he doesn't have a cup, by all means, Kreider should have his number in the rafters next to Hank's when his career's over. He should be a lifelong Ranger. But they fired Jim Ramsey for an absolute BS reason. He hated it. I assume he was vocally unhappy about it. Dolan, Drury, whoever doesn't like being questioned. I mean, it's at the very top. The sensitive one is, but doesn't like being questioned. Now he's trying to get him out of there. Grow up.
Honestly. And dude, like, not only is Kreider one of your leaders on the ice, not only is he one of your leaders in the dressing room. And I know these comments came out weeks ago and this might be old news, but it still fires me up. Like, Kreider is one of your all-time playoff performers. Like, on a team like the New York Rangers, who has playoff performers like lined up around the corner. Chris Kreider is one of those guys. For a team that's been around for over 100 years, he is one of your best playoff performers in 100 years of history, and you're throwing him under the bus like that. It drives me nuts, man. Like, even if you feel what you feel what you feel, but publicly to come out like that against one of the best goal scorers that New York has ever seen in the spring is just ridiculous to me. I can't stand it.
Yeah, it's it's ridiculous. But it's a dumpster fire. Everything's gonna burn.
Yeah,
it's just a matter of what gets saved. Igor got himself saved. He got his nice armor one. He's not going anywhere.
Yeah, but now he's like, okay, I'm a millionaire in the most dysfunctional franchise in New York. Actually, that's not true. The Jets are still there, so it's not that bad. But all right, let's move on. Luckily for you, we do not have to talk about the Rangers until tomorrow when they take on the Dallas Stars. And we don't have to talk about the Buffalo Sabres until tomorrow when they take on the Toronto Maple Leafs. So we can move on from those two New York teams and let's get into the action today. The New Jersey Devils take on the Columbus Blue Jackets. In Columbus, the Blue Jackets at home are plus 180. The Devils minus 220. Minus 1.5 for the Devils is plus 116. Plus 1.5 for the Blue Jackets, minus 142. The over is 6.5 at minus 105. And the under is minus 115. Andre, what do you got, man? Devils, Blue Jackets. Should actually be a pretty good game, man. I know the Devils are playing really well, but the Blue Jackets are not an easy out these days.
Yeah, I mean, they're not, and it really starts with their scoring at home. They average just under 4 goals per game at home. So that alone should keep them competitive with a Devils team that's also consistently scoring 3, 4, 5 goals in these games, one of the best offenses in the NHL. I think that's why the over is the best play for me, and an early favorite for best bet. I just really like what both offenses are doing, especially with this game being in Columbus. The Devils are playing pretty well. 3-game winning streak, all 3 games by multiple goals. This one's also on the road. I feel like lately they've been a little bit better on the road, and 12-4 record supports that. Columbus, kind of coming back down to earth. They've lost 5 in a row, 8 of their last 9. Even at home, they have a losing streak now. Where at home, they were making noise. They were winning games consistently. They're on a losing streak. So I do like what the Jackets have done for most of the year, especially on home ice. But Nationwide Arena is going to see the Devil tonight. I'm taking that puck line in a high-scoring game.
Ooh, gonna see the Devil. Love that. Journalist, and I was gonna call you Andrew. That's not your name. Journalist Andre. Yeah, I don't know about the puck line. I just like Markstrom's been playing really good lately, and I think he's in net tonight. I don't know. I'm just let me just look at this. Sorry, full disclosure, while you were talking, I was dealing with something in my house, so I'm here. All right. Yeah, like lately, Markstrom's been playing really well. I like what I'm seeing the offense from Columbus. I think my favorite bet in this game, and it might be too obvious, but I really do like the over. I think over 6.5. This screams 6-4, 5-3, maybe 4-3. Like, this screams a high-scoring game. I think the Devils' puck line, if you're going to take a side, I do think that is probably the right play. Something's kind of making me nervous about it. I just feel like the Blue Jackets, just a tough team to bet the puck line against. Like, they just do things. Like, they just score. And, plus 1.5 for Columbus at minus 142. I don't love the price, but kind of intriguing a little bit. But the over 6.5 at minus 105, that's my favorite bet in this game. I think both teams get a bunch of goals. All right, moving on to St. Louis in Tampa. St. Louis, I know, like, I get it. To me, plus 176 with how the Blues have been playing is too high. I think this line should be a lot closer than this. Not saying St. Louis is going to win, but I do think that it should be closer than this. Tampa Bay minus 215 or 225 now at home. It moved plus 184 now. So what I just said is going the other way. Minus 1.5 for Tampa is plus 116. Plus 1.5 for the Blues is minus 142. Over 5.5 is minus 134, and the under is plus 110. What do you got, St. Louis, Tampa?
Yeah, I know the Blues beat the Lightning in November 3-2, but I love the Lightning at home. I think I've made that pretty obvious on this show.
Yeah.
Outside of the Leafs and the Capitals, 2 good teams. I don't recall them losing at home anytime recently. I think the Stars beat them too. But again, another good team. Otherwise, they're consistently winning. They're consistently scoring a ton. Their defense is so much better on home ice. So I like the Lightning here, -1.5, going to another puck line. I just, 3-game winning streak as is. They're a lot better team at home. They're a lot better, I think, than this Blues team, and already lost to them once. I don't see it happening twice. I'm not going to see Lightning striking twice, if you will. So, like the puck line here, might stay away from a total, even though I'm leaning towards the over just because of the Lightning. But yeah, that's where I see this game.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's just because we haven't done a show in a while, and I just started this gig covering the Dallas Stars. So maybe I've just been kind of out of touch. But Lightning, first in the league in goals, that kind of snuck up on me. I know they're a good, high-scoring team, but first in the league in goals. Goaltending for St. Louis is a really tough thing to gauge. Both, like Webb Binnington and Hofer are both on. They're both very on. Like, they both have the capability of being really good, solid goaltenders, but it's just very inconsistent, and it's just hard to really predict exactly how those how those goalies are going to perform. I think I'm with you on that -1.5. I lean over just because it's 5.5. Like the 5.5, if it was 6.5, then I might stay away from the total. But being 5.5, I like the -134 there. I can see this being a 4-2 game. So I'm leaning over 5.5. If that total was any higher, I would stay away from it entirely. And I'm leaning Tampa Bay -1.5. I will say I watched the Blues quite a bit recently, and that's a really fast team, especially like adding Holloway, adding Broberg. Like, that's a really fast hockey team, and they play really hard, especially under Jim Montgomery. So I'm leaning -1.5 Tampa, but I'm probably staying away from this game, to be honest. The one prop or the two props that I really do like, Jordan Kyrou, he's been putting the puck in quite a bit as of late. He's +240, while Jake Gensel is +140. I like those two guys to both score in this game tonight. Moving on to the LA Kings in Philadelphia. Philly playing on a back-to-back. +138 now are the Flyers at home. The line moved ever so slightly. The Kings -166. -1.5 for the Kings is +156. +1.5 for the Flyers, -194. The over is 5.5 at -102, and the under is -120. What do you got? Kings, Flyers. Crazy game last night, by the way. But somebody that we both know, great guy, Chris Babos, covering the Flyers in Philly. I was talking to him about it. This back and forth game. Patrick Kane seals it late as the Flyers lose. But what do you got here? Kings and Philly at back to back.
Yeah, that was crazy game that they lost. Really sucks that they lost it, because second half of back to back they had to fly from Detroit. Defense has kind of been a mess lately. They've only held one team under 3 goals in their past 7 games. 7 against the Panthers, 4 against the Bruins, 4 against the Hockey Club, 3 against the Jackets, 4 against the Wild, 6 against the Red Wings last night. You're talking about goals allowed. That's rough. That's really rough. And then you got a Kings team. They had the day off. They were already in Pennsylvania. They didn't have to travel as far. It's a good situation for LA, and LA just wins games. It's getting kind of dangerous for me here with these puck lines. So I think I'm just going to take 60-minute line for this one. But I feel very confident in the Kings pulling this one out, especially if the Flyers aren't going to stop them from scoring. Because if you know one thing about Los Angeles Kings hockey, they're not going to allow more than 3 goals 90% of the time.
Yes.
If the Flyers are going to give them 3 or 4, the Kings are probably going to win. So 60-minute line here for me.
Yeah, and I think that is why I am going to. I'll pick up the mantle, bro. I'll pick up the mantle, and I will take the Kings at -1.5.
Thank you.
I listen, Philly. I really like Philly. I think they're a really competitive team. This isn't against Philly. I just think that was a crazy game on the road last night. I think it was on the road, right? They were in
Yeah.
Detroit, I'm pretty sure. Um, and they end up losing it. It was a wild game. The Kings are in Philly. They've been waiting. And I hate to admit it, I am one of the biggest Kings detractors, going in the last 6 months. Um, but they've been playing really well, and like you said, it's almost guaranteed that you will be lucky if you get 3 goals. And I think it's going to be tough for Philly tonight. I'll take the Kings -1.5 at +154. On the prop side of things, I really like, even though they're not going to score a lot, I do like Travis Konechny at +190 to get a goal for the Flyers. Moving on to Pittsburgh and Nashville. Ah, man, Nashville. I know that they're winning-ish lately-ish, kind of-ish, but Pittsburgh in Nashville +134, Nashville -162, -1.5 for Nashville's +160, +1.5 for Pittsburgh's -200, over 5.5 -134, under is +110. I will say the line has moved slightly, -152 for Nashville now and +126 for Pittsburgh. I'll just come right out and say this off the top. Not going to deep dive this one. We talked about Nashville a lot. The books are still waiting for them to come around. I like what I've seen from Pittsburgh. I'm taking the Penguins +126. Sidney Crosby, 10 games without a goal. He is +200 to score tonight. So give me Crosby +200 and give me the Penguins +130, +126. Sorry. What do you got?
I mean, your plus money against Nashville, you got to take it. They quite literally have the worst record in the league. So I'm right there with you. Pittsburgh, +136. It's a steal. It's always a steal against the Predators. They don't score. They have not been scoring. They will continue to not score. And Pittsburgh, if you're not going to score against them, you're going to lose because they're consistently, finding the back of the net. It's really the defense that's been their problem when they lose this year. I do think it's going to be a lower scoring game. I do trust S.O.S and the defense at home a lot. They tend to show up there, but again, you gotta hit the back of the net.
Yeah. And Roman Yossi, I believe, is still out for the Predators. So I am right there with you. You told me before the show that your Capo Caco Kraken jersey is on the way. It's in the mail. Don't know if he's playing tonight, but I can't wait to see that bad boy live. Seattle, says because you're changing teams, right?
Of course.
You're jumping ship. You're following.
Yeah.
Jumping ship. No pun intended. You're following Kako to the Kraken. -142 are the Seattle Kraken on the road, taking on the Chicago Blackhawks, beating the Washington Capitals. The Blackhawks did exactly what the Ducks did last night. 2 late goals. They win against Capitals the other night. +116 at home. Let me just pull this up right quick. The Kraken -1.5 +176. Chicago +1.5 -220. Over is 5.5 at -105, and the under is -115. What do you got?
I mean, you know what I got. I grew up at Pike's Place tossing fish, You got Capo Caco on the team now, former lottery pick. It's got to be the Kraken here. It's got to be. But seriously, it's the Blackhawks more than it's the Kraken. I mean, I know they're kind of playing competitive hockey lately. They've won 2 in a row. I think they had a 1-goal loss also this month. They beat the Rangers too, so they have 3 wins in their 9 December games. It's really good by their standards, but they're still not a good team. Still can't play strong defensively. Still not scoring very well.
Yeah.
And Seattle, rough season, but they've handled business against the teams they were supposed to for the most part. They beat the Blackhawks 3-1 already this season. They've lost 2 in a row. That needs to end at some point. Hitting the road where they won 3 of their last 4 last time they had a road trip. Probably going to be good for them. Nice little reset. They got some reinforcements. Nice little message to the locker room. I don't really love the value for this game or anything about it, so I would, maybe toss this in a parlay, but Kraken minus 142 for me. Not really feeling much else from this game. I'd probably go under 5.5 as well. Probably, I see this as like a 3-1 finish. Not super confident, but it's the Blackhawks, so betting against them is usually a safe play, and those odds are good enough where you can just do it.
Yeah, to me, the last thing you said, that's my favorite play in this game is the under 5.5 minus 115. That's my favorite play here. I just think like minus 140 for Seattle for the price. I don't love it. And you know what, man, like say what you want about the Blackhawks. I'm right there with you, but I can see this being a 1-goal game, 3-2, maybe a little garbage time. I heard the other day on the radio, something that you and I haven't talked about in a while lately. This used to be your favorite bet. The Blackhawks have scored the first goal of the game 20 times.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't remember if they scored the first goal of the game against Washington. I don't think they did. But they have scored the first goal of the game 20 times. So that's a fun little bet you can throw in there. But I like the under here, man. I think Seattle's been playing some decent hockey lately. Their goaltending's been phenomenal. Blackhawks have a tough time scoring, and I think the Kraken do just enough to win 2-1, 3-2, 3-1.
Yeah.
The under is my favorite bet in this game.
Love it. They and by the way, huge third period comeback for the Blackhawks to beat the Capitals. 3 unanswered goals in that period.
Huge.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, tough spot for Washington. Second half of a back-to-back. You could tell their legs were just dead, but still, man, Washington's one of the best teams in the league, at least right now they are. So for the Blackhawks to pull that off, good on them. Moving on to Boston, Edmonton, plus 150 are the Bruins. Plus 155 now are the Bruins. Edmonton Oilers minus 184. Plus 1.5 for the Bruins is minus 168. Minus 1.5 for the Oilers, plus 136. The over is 6.5 at plus 112. The under is 6.5 at minus 138. We had a conversation over Thanksgiving, and we were talking about the Stanley Cup odds and all this stuff. And I was dumping all over how Edmonton was the Stanley Cup favorites. This is ridiculous, blah, blah, blah. Well, they're, if not the hottest, they're one of the hottest teams in the NHL right now. And it looks like they are back. And they just do what they do every year. They suck for the first month and a half, and then they just take over the NHL. I am taking the Oilers minus 1.5 here. I love the plus 136. I think that Boston, I know they had a big night over the weekend against Vancouver, but this team is as inconsistent as it gets right now. Vancouver has its own issues. I think Edmonton rolls all over them. Minus 1.5, plus 136. I lean over here, plus 112. But some nights Boston scores 8. Sometimes they score 1. I don't know what I'm getting from Boston. So I'm staying away from the total, but I do like the Oilers minus 1.5.
Yeah. The Bruins kind of, one, you're talking about the Canucks game. The Canucks have had issues at home all year. 2, the Bruins just kind of own Vancouver. It is what it is. They just run that city. But you don't know what you're going to get from the Bruins every single night. This is the same team that lost 5-1 to the Kraken the game before that.
Right.
What is Boston? That's the question. I don't really know. And like you said, I think you nailed this game. You know what you're going to get from the Oilers. Specifically, right now, what you're going to get from the Oilers is the offense we've known and grown to love the past 5, 6, however many years. For that reason and that reason alone, I like the over 6 here. I have it at -112. I think that's great value for this game. As far as the side, one of the hottest teams in the league. They're at home. The Bruins are wrapping up or on the last legs of a very long road trip. This is specifically the Pacific Northwest version of it, so not exactly fun travel wise. I like Edmonton here, 60-minute line with that high scoring game. I'd probably puck line, but
what's the 60-minute line at odds wise?
I don't know what I'm going to get from the Bruins. The 60-minute line, -125.
Okay. Yeah, that's all right.
Which is fine.
Yeah.
But, not trying to get too greedy here.
Yeah. No, I'm with you there, man. This Boston team, they're like the Dallas Cowboys, man. I'm so happy. I'm just so happy, and I hope they missed. Although I will say that Brad Marchand is their star player. Obviously not like, Pasternak's their star, Swayman and whatever. But I love Brad Marchand. I think that guy is a beauty, and I wish he was on my team. There is nobody on the Dallas Stars that I wish that about. You could say, oh, what about CeeDee Lamb? I'm an Eagles fan, man. I got Smith. I got Brown. I don't need CeeDee Lamb. There's no one on the Cowboys that I want on my team. Although Micah Parsons, there's been rumors about him coming to Philly for a while. But anyway, that's
the Penn State guy.
Yeah, I'm here for it. Anyway, all right. None of that was important. Moving on to the Ottawa Senators. The aforementioned, I guess not afore, it was a while ago, but the previously mentioned Ottawa Senators in Calgary. Sneaky good game. I'm actually looking forward to this one. I'm bummed out that it overlaps the Vancouver-Vegas game because those two games for me are two of the games that I'm going to have my eye on probably the most. Ottawa Senators -140, Calgary Flames +116, -1.5 for Ottawa is +180, +1.5 for Calgary is -225. The over is 5.5 at -110, and the under is also -110. This is a tough game for me to read, bro. So I'm going to give you the floor. I need some time. I don't know. My head is saying Ottawa, but I really love this Calgary team, and I don't know. I'm still having a hard time trusting the Senators. What do you got here?
Yeah, there's two ways to look at this. I'll help you out. I'll give you an argument for each one. If you're looking at the Senators, they've won 4 in a row. Their power play 7th in the league against the Calgary team, who's 29th on the PK. If you're looking at the Flames, they win at home. 11-4-2. They consistently find ways to compete. They beat the Panthers 3-0 on home ice not that long ago. And that PK in particular improves a lot, 75%, a respectable number at home. Save percentage jumps up to .916. Power play is 23% at home. I'm taking Calgary. I like the plus money. I like what they've done at home this year, picking up 2 points pretty consistently. And I know the Senators are playing well. I know this team is supposed to be good, and they're starting to resemble that. I don't think streaks like this are going to last forever for that team. I have to see it to believe it. So I'm rolling with the plus money here.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? And that's the thing with Ottawa, that it's like, it's just, if you're talking full season sample, full season, not a recent 10-game sample size, full season, Calgary has been pretty steady, right? They've been really good at times. They've been not so good at times. Even that, like, they were 0-6-1. Their last 10 even still isn't that great if I'm looking at it. I just want to make sure I get this right. They're 3-4-3 in their last 10. So like it, but they've been what they are. Where Ottawa is just the biggest roller coaster in the National Hockey League. I think I'm right there with you. Calgary plus 116 at home. The thing about Ottawa, and I'm going to be really interested to see how this goes all the way into the new year, because the World Junior Championships are in Ottawa this year. So they're on a massive road trip. They're going to be on the road forever. And I'm interested to see how that goes as time moves on. But I'm with you. I'm taking Calgary plus 116 at home as well. Another bet that I absolutely love in this game, and I don't know if this is something that you can look up quickly, but I feel like every time I watch the Calgary Flames, which is quite often, I catch a lot of their games, I feel like every time they're going to overtime. Plus 310 for a 60-minute draw. Plus 310. I love that bet. I can tell you exactly what's going to happen, man. Ottawa's going to be winning 3-2 with 2.5 minutes left. They're going to pull the goalie. They're going to tie the game, and they're going to win in overtime. They do it every Thursday night. This is what happens. It's Groundhog Day.
Heard it here first. Lock
That's
it in.
Right.
This guy has a script.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Here we go. Moving on. Vancouver, Vegas. Probably game of the night. I think there's lots of compelling storylines in a lot of these games, but this feels like the game of the night. Vegas, Vancouver. This is the tough thing, right? Is you get the loser's point last night in Utah, but you had that game up 2-0, and you let it slip away, and now you're taking on a juggernaut in the Vegas Golden Knights. That game last night, that stings, because now you're on a back-to-back. You're going to Vegas, and this is a tough matchup for Vancouver. Minus 176 for Vegas, plus 146 for Vancouver. The over is 5.5 at minus 115, and the under is minus 105. Minus 1.5. Did I already give out the puck line? My brain just fell off. I don't think I did I? Minus 1.5 for Vegas is plus 146. Plus 1.5 for Vancouver is minus 180. What do you got here, man? I feel like this is Vegas all day, dude. I don't love that minus 176, but I just have a hard time seeing Vancouver win this game.
I can see Vancouver winning this game. That's the thing.
Okay. Talk to me.
I don't know. I know they've had their struggles, especially lately, but they just pick up points on the road. They're 10-2-2 on the road. At the very least, I like, again, forcing it to overtime, and not as a joke, but you look what they've done. Their last road game, they lost in OT. The game before that, they lost in OT. 2 games before that, they won. I believe one of those, if not both, went to OT. Both of those went to OT, yeah. 1 goal loss before that, 2 wins, or not 2 wins, but they had won every other road game before that, besides the opener. The point being, on the road, they only have 1 regulation loss, or the 2 regulation losses, and one of those is by 1 goal. They're going to keep this tight. So at the very least, that puck line, I feel is safe. Now, minus 175 or whatever you have it at, minus 185, not valuable at all. Unless you're throwing
the puck line?
For Vancouver's puck line.
Yeah, minus 180.
Unless you're throwing that in like a 3-4 leg parlay, you're not really doing anything with that. If you want to roll the dice on Vancouver, I support it. If you want to bet on this game going to OT, I kind of love that. I feel good about that. I don't feel confident enough to pick Vegas winning in any capacity, even though they're the better team, even though they're at home.
Interesting.
With what Vancouver's done on the road. So I honestly love this game. I think it's going to be a fun matchup.
Yeah, well.
I don't know if I would bet on it, though.
Oh, interesting. I just want to look something up here real quick.
Granted, that total's at 5.5. That's kind of low, though.
Yeah, that's tough. For Vancouver, let me see. Yeah, Demko was in net last night. And, I think, oddly enough, I know this is going to sound funny. Like, if this was this time last year, then I would never say this. But I kind of feel like they have a better chance with Lankinen I just feel like he's been playing longer this year. He's more well-rounded this year. I feel like Demko, you're still kind of getting into full season form, and that's going to take a while. So I do like Vancouver more with Lankinen in net. The other thing I will say, and I know like Vancouver, they had a tough game against Boston on the weekend. I believe, right? Just double checking this. Yeah, they lost pretty bad to Boston on the
5-1.
weekend. And Vancouver had a good win against Colorado the other night. The one thing that I saw the other night against the Avalanche, and I know they lost last night, but having JT Miller back in the lineup, that team just looks rejuvenated. Like, he might not wear the C, but he is absolutely, he's the straw that stirs the drink there. I think having him back. So to your point, I do think Lankinen being in net is huge. And I think having JT Miller back is even bigger or even huger. I think it's a really, like, having him back is really important. And I know there's been rumors of him maybe leaving or whatever. I think Brady's gone because he's not making fun of me anymore. So he's probably gone. But I want him to hear this. I'm saying something positive about Vancouver. I do think having JT Miller back is like, obviously his production is huge, but having him back, just being there, is an intangible that I don't think can be explained. I just think that he's really important to that lineup.
Great player. Love JT Miller. Wish he was a Ranger still.
Yeah, sorry to kick you while you're down, bro. Moving on to Colorado, San Jose, minus 226. Last game of the night, minus 226, Colorado on the road. San Jose is plus 210 at home. Minus 1.5 for Colorado is minus 106. Minus 1.5. Minus 1.5 plus. Start over. Plus 1.5 for San Jose is minus 114. Over 6.5, minus 104. Under minus 118. Short and sweet here, Andre. I'm going to tell you, this is the battle of the goalies, right? The battle of the tendies. Since Georgie has left, he's been pretty good, man. He's been pretty good. Colorado, maybe it's that sound defensive structure in San Jose that he was missing all this time.
Yeah.
And the goalie that went the other way has been okay. I'll say this. I'm not getting crazy with the plus 210. However, if I were to, it wouldn't really be that crazy. San Jose's been playing good hockey, and they've been playing good teams really tough. Did they beat Washington recently, or they lost in overtime or something?
Oh, they won.
Was it Washington?
2-1 in DC, beginning of the month.
Yeah, man. They lost to the Jets 4-3. That was a game that they actually, I remember correctly, they were up 3-2 in that game.
Outshot them.
What's that?
I said they were up 3-2, outshot them. Perfect penalty kill, power play goal. Really good performance.
Yeah. On Saturday, they lost to Utah 4-3. Thursday, what was it? They beat the Blues 4-3. So maybe a 4-3 exact score. That's a bet that should be placed. They're 4-3 every single night. All I'm saying is St. Louis is playing, or San Jose is playing really good, sound, competitive hockey right now. Plus, I know it's Colorado. I know that it's Colorado, but give me plus 1.5 San Jose at minus 114. I'm here for it. By default, I like the under here. I feel like if San Jose is going to keep this to one goal, I feel like it has to go under, in my opinion. But I like the under, or I like the plus 1.5 here for San Jose, minus 114. What do you got? And I think Sorry. I think the fact it's minus 114 is important because San Jose plus 1.5 against the Colorado Avalanche being minus money is pretty substantial. Like that's pretty telling to me. And I normally like to ignore Vegas and not pay attention and do whatever I want, but that's a pretty telling.
Yeah. Listen, nothing crazy going on here. I'm going to do what you didn't. I know the Avs went to San Jose, won 4-1 in October. The Sharks are a new team now. More importantly, they have a new goalie, and this is going to be the greatest revenge game we've seen from a goalie this decade. Sharks win. Sharks might allow one goal. Might. But the Sharks win this game. Give me the plus money. Georgie's going to get his revenge. He's going to stick up his middle finger through the glove. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be beautiful. I still think Colorado's winning the Western Conference. But they're going to lose tonight.
Do you?
I do.
Like to go to the finals.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. They're going to win the Western Conference. But they're not going to beat the Sharks tonight.
So here we go. As I explained to you, the Sharks are winning or losing by a score of 4-3. That's just how it's worked.
Yeah.
for every game, for either result, win or lose, for this game to have exactly 7 goals, all right? 4 plus 3 is 7, in case Brady is watching and needs me to do the math. 4-3 is 7 goals, plus 370, all right? For a Colorado Avalanche 4-3 win, plus 1,500. All right? Plus 1,500.
Yeah.
Now, I thought this would be because it's plus 1,500 for a Colorado 4-3 win, I thought these odds would be substantially different. They're actually pretty close. For the Sharks to win 4-3, it's plus 1,800. So, there you go. That's a little fun.
Good finds.
Fun. Little $10 bet. Sharks 4-3 win. Plus 1,800. I thought it'd be in the 2000s, but pretty close bet. All right. That is it for the games. Let's move on. We'll get out of here. To everybody watching, whether on Total Apex Sports or on my personal channels, I appreciate you. We appreciate you. Shout out First Round Collectibles, promo code SportsAddict, 10% off your order, whether it's on sale or regular price. You get 10% off. FirstRoundCollectibles.com. Sports cards for sports fans. First Round Collectibles. Andre, best bet. We've been talking for a while. What do you got?
We have been talking for a while. There's a lot of bets I actually love today. Which, actually, what I was going to pick, I think I'm going to say for a family play. I think we're on the same page with that one. So I will drop that. Might be a hint that I just left for you. Kings, 60-minute line. I feel very confident they're going to win tonight. Flyers are on the second half of a back-to-back. Their defense has been a mess lately. LA just consistently picks up points. If they're going to score 3 goals, if they're going to score 4 goals, which they probably will against the Flyers right now, Philly has no shot at winning this game. And I don't really think they have a shot at getting a point if they allow more than 3 goals. So 60-minute line for the Kings, plus 105. That's my best bet.
I can't even think of what our family play could possibly be because I just moved our First Round Collectibles logo across the screen and I have no idea how I did it. I don't know how to change it back. I have no idea what I did. Like I said, if someone wants to work for us for free to run this show, I'd really appreciate it because I have no idea what I am doing. Before I choose my bet, is your family play Pittsburgh by any chance?
Maybe.
Okay. All right. Then I'll leave it. I'm gonna go to Chicago. Chicago, Seattle, under 5.5. I feel very strongly about this bet, minus 115. It is my favorite bet of the night. Minus 115 Seattle, Chicago. Not my favorite bet, but I think it's my most favorite likely bet is the under 5.5 at minus 115. I do think that Chicago won't be able to score, and I think Seattle has not as bad issues, but similar. I think it's under 5.5. I think Seattle wins, but I like that bet better than the money line at the price and better than the minus 1.5 at the likelihood. So Seattle, Chicago, under 5.5.
Boom. Are we doing it?
Let's do it, man.
All right, let's do it. Predators are going down. Pittsburgh Penguins money line is the family play today.
What do you have odds-wise for that over there?
I have plus 136.
Oh, that might put you over the top, bro. It's plus 126 here.
Ooh. Yeah,
So
that's
we'll
a big
see.
difference.
All right. Under 5.5, minus 115 for Seattle, Chicago. Plus 126 Pittsburgh money line. Los Angeles Kings 60-minute line plus 100. On FanDuel, I have this parlay at plus 745.
I got
And
you by a
Geek-
decent amount.
Do you? Good for you.
Because the Kings, I have the Kings plus 105. So I have plus
Ooh.
804.
Look at you.
Yeah.
You deserve it, man. You needed it. You needed that.
Yes, I did.
Good for you.
We're back.
A little breaking news for those self-centered Leaf fans who are watching. Matt Murray looking to make his season debut. Back from the minors. Is that a really good season? That happens tomorrow or on Saturday. Shout out First Round Collectibles, promo code SportsAddict, 10% off your order. Shout out Total Apex Sports. Shout out to all of you watching. We appreciate you. We'll be back tomorrow, either Friday or Monday. We'll be doing some World Juniors coverage as well.